Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Down the Garden Path. I'm excited to have a fan favorite back with us. Julia Dimakos, the gardening girl, is joining us here. Welcome to the show, Julia.
Thank you so much for having me back.
I'm excited to chat. And we've kind of come up with a plan of things that people can start growing for themselves right now. And, I'm excited to talk about a few different vegetables that we can grow. And it's not too late. I think a lot of times people think, oh, if they didn't start seeds in February, it's too late, right? It's
Right.
not too late.
Not too late at all. No. And I think that February could even be too early for many things. Very specific crops should be started early. Like if you want to grow leeks and celery and celeriac, these are early crops that you should start in February. But if you want to grow the typical foods that we have in our diet that you could buy at the grocery store, now is a good time to start many of them. April is really kind of that critical month that gives you about 6 to 8 weeks before the final frost date, depending on where you live. And that's just enough time to get a lot of these like specific plants started, crops that you would buy at the store, vegetables. So definitely.
Excellent. So we're going to start off by talking about lettuce, because we all know the price of lettuce at the grocery store and the quality too, right?
Yes, exactly.
And the pesticides, and I know there in the past season, there's been scares where there's shortages or recalls on lettuce. So I think it's something I know I have not been successful myself, but I really want to this year. So I was hoping you could walk us through some suggestions on how best to grow lettuce and the varieties. We thought we'd start there.
Okay. Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to start with fresh seeds. So get a packet of fresh seeds. If you have seeds that have been sitting in your drawer for years, I would say the chances of them germinating or having a majority of those seeds germinate is low. So lettuce seems to lose its viability. I find specifically lettuce purchased from a seed company. If you're growing your own lettuce, you save your own seeds. Those seeds are adapted to your growing conditions. You're storing them yourself. They tend to last for years and years. So most of my lettuce seeds that I save, they will germinate within 24 hours, which is really amazing for lettuce seeds. In general, though, if you're purchasing seeds, whether it's Mackenzie or OSC or any other company, the germination rate is very touchy. So it depends. So that's why I would recommend buy fresh seeds, buy more than one packet.
Okay.
And when you're sowing them, I recommend multi-sowing. So I talk about this a lot on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, as well as on Instagram. I have a video where I show you how to basically pot up multi-sown seeds. And so when you're multi-sowing, you take a container, a small little you can use like a produce box.
Yeah, like the mushroom
box. Yeah, put some holes in it. Or I have mini seed trays, which are just basically like one small, basically a 2x4 type of size, 2x4 inch or 6-inch type of seed tray, anything like that. And multi-sow. So you put your seed starting mix inside, and then lettuce needs light to germinate. So you don't want to bury the lettuce seeds. You want to make sure that they're on top of the soil. So you put your seed starting mix into your container, pat it down. So I like to press it down with another container, or I use, the bottom of a pot or something, just to make sure it's even. And then I like to moisten that soil. So that way, in case the soil has been dry, you want to make sure that it's moist, because once you put the seeds on, you don't want to drown the seeds and have them swim around. So you you moisten the soil, and then you sprinkle the lettuce seeds, and I would sprinkle them generously. Now, seeds are not expensive. And when you buy a packet of lettuce seeds, it's $2-something, $3-something for a packet. And there's at least 100 seeds in there. So be generous. Don't be scared to put extra seeds down. You can always, prick them out early and eat as like microgreens, or give them to friends, or compost them. Doesn't matter. I would say better to be on the safe side when it comes to lettuce. And so then you multi-sow, you sprinkle on top of the soil surface, leaving gaps. So don't make a coverage, don't make a carpet of seeds, but just fairly generously kind of throw over top of that soil. And then you would, because it needs light to germinate, you don't want to bury them. So instead of doing that, cover them with a layer of vermiculite. So vermiculite is like a volcanic type of mica, and it's very light, and it allows light to penetrate. But also what it does is creates a soil to seed contact when you lay it on top of the soil. So then you pour you sprinkle an even layer of vermiculite on top of that soil surface, which will cover the seeds, give them that coverage and that protection to prevent them from moving around, but yet it allows the light to come through.
Really?
I would then water. Yeah. Then
so it's not that. So I mix up perlite and vermiculite. So perlite is the white balls, right?
Though they look like styrofoam. Yeah, yes. they're like pumice stones. They're kind of crunchy. And then the vermiculite is like golden, kind of light and airy and fluffy.
Okay.
And sometimes it looks like there's bigger pieces depending on the brand that makes it. Sometimes they literally look like flakes. So that's all you do. And then that vermiculite, so vermiculite, when you add it to a soil mix, helps to retain moisture in the soil, whereas perlite allows the soil to drain better. Vermiculite holds water, so because the vermiculite will stay moist. When you put it on the soil surface, it keeps the soil surface moist, but also prevents the soil from crusting over. It also covers the seeds, and keeps them safe. So then once you put the layer of vermiculite on top, you water it gently with like a light misty or type of, I like to use bottle top waterers. They just screw on top of a water bottle and they have tiny little holes, and I just use that. And I water that, and then I put my label in. Don't forget that, because you want to label, and the date as well. I like to put on, because I like to keep track with lettuce. In my seeds, the seeds that I save, they're 24 hours to 48 at the most to germinate, and pretty much most of them will. When you're buying seeds, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks. I don't know why it is. It's probably poor storage. It's probably they stayed hot, they're old. You never know what's wrong.
Okay.
And then I like to put a dome. So either you put a dome or some kind of coverage or plastic wrap or something on top of that soil to keep the moisture in, and put it under a grow light. Alternatively, if you have like a tray with a dome, you could set that little seed tray into that bigger tray with the dome over it. Regardless, cover it with some kind of plastic dome and set it under the grow light, just to have, because lettuce will stretch. So you want to make sure that under a grow light is best 2 inches, and keep your grow light 2 inches above the top of that container. And then when the seeds germinate, because they need light to germinate, they will not become lanky and long in growing, in search of light. They will just stay where they are and grow more healthy. So I recommend a grow light. If you put them in a window, they are going to grow in search of that window. So you're going to have lanky seedlings, which will not produce full-size leaves. It's going to kind of produce like these thin, scraggly things. So ideally is a grow light or a greenhouse. If you have a greenhouse, you don't need to have a grow light. It has even light everywhere in a greenhouse. So then you can set it in the greenhouse again with the dome to maintain the humidity. Once you see germination, take the humidity dome off. If you don't take the plastic wrap or humidity dome off, it can cause too much moisture buildup or humidity at the soil level, which can cause damping off, and you will lose your seedlings. They will become like floppy and they'll just basically die right at the soil line. So to prevent that from happening, once you see germination, remove the cover and leave it in the light. It needs 16 hours of light, 8 hours darkness. So 16 hours on, 8 hours off if you're setting a timer. Or like, in the greenhouse, whatever the daylight is. So, and that will be fine too. You want to start transplanting out before the first true leaves appear. And I know it seems, a lot of people think that's really scary because they're so tiny and they're fragile. They're not. You do need to use a gentle grasp, but you can easily move them. If you wait until they produce a first true leaf, first of all, it'll stunt their growth because they don't like growing in competition with others. They like to have their own space. And their roots become so large and invasive, like they grow, they spread, they have side roots, that they will tangle together and be difficult to separate. So that's why I recommend before the first true leaf and after the baby leaves or the cotyledon leaves appear, they're ready for transplanting. And so what you do is then you use like a dibber or like a little spoon or something to scoop up a chunk of that soil, and then you holding the leaf only, not the stem, not the roots, just the leaf. By the edge of the leaf, you gently separate the seedlings, dibble a hole into a seed. So you've got a seed tray then with like individual cells. You dibble a hole. You make a hole with either a dibber, which they have dibbers for seedlings, or you can use like a pen tip, or you can use a pencil. So you dibble that hole into the soil, and then you gently pop in the seedling, and then you push the roots in with the edge of your dibber or pencil until they're all in, and then you firm the soil around it, and it's done. And you want to do one seedling per cell when it comes to lettuce because competition will prevent them from growing and producing full-size leaves. They do not like it. So, when you see packets of cut and come again lettuce, and if you sprinkle, a garden of cut and come again lettuce, you're going to end up with small little leaves. They just will not grow because they don't like competition. They need to have their own space. They will produce a lot of roots quickly, even when they're just tiny. So they need to have that distance.
Yeah.
And yeah. So
compared to how tiny the seeds are, it's amazing how fast they grow. Is now a good time to get started. So then we'd have spring lettuce, but then if you were going to grow them later in the season, would you also start them inside and then progress them outside as well? Or would you do them?
There's different ways. So you can, right now, if you wanted to, because lettuce is really hardy, you can either, and if your ground is workable and not frozen, and it should be fine now because the days ahead are fine, they're above zero. So once your soil is workable, you can, make a row, like a little furrow in the soil. You can draw one in and sprinkle the seeds, but then you want to, prick out so that each one has their own space. Okay. Alternatively, you can start a pack indoors, a tray indoors of your lettuces, and then in 2 weeks, start another tray or small tray, like a mini, 9-pack or 6-pack or 12-pack, whatever you like, however much you need. And then you can do that every 2 weeks, and you can start. So I already have, because I grow in a greenhouse to start with, I started my lettuces in early March, and they need about 3 weeks from seed to transplant out to the soil, the garden. So keep that in mind. That's the right size for them, about 3 weeks old. Makes them easier to plant and manage because you're not going to put out teeny tiny little seedlings. Those are hard to, they get lost. So a little bit larger is better. A couple of sets of true leaves is a good size to put in the ground. So about 3 weeks. That's how long I account for it.
Okay. So you already have some already outside? Do you have some outside
My greenhouse is full.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. I saw your Instagram. Yeah. It's
the lettuce. So not only that, lettuce self-sows really easily. So if you leave the plants in the garden and they produce seeds, they will drop seeds and you will have lettuce for free, which I have. I have a million, I don't know how many I have. There's so many, they're countless. But in the garden is the same thing. And they grow everywhere. They're so hardy that they grow between the interlock, between the tiles, they grow in the mulch, they grow everywhere. So once you drop a seed, it grows. And like I said, homegrown seed is better than store-bought for some reason. Mm-hmm. So I definitely recommend learning how to save some of your own, save a plant, leave it to grow to flower, it produces yellow flowers, and then the flowers mature and they look like teeny tiny dandelions. They're like white poofy, and then at the tips of those there's a cluster of seeds, and every flower has so many. So if you have one plant, you will have never-ending lettuce, and it's great. And it's the best seed because it's the most viable seed. I just find it germinates the easiest. So and there's different lettuces that can grow in different conditions. So the lettuce that you can grow now, you can grow any kind of lettuce you want right now because it's cold and cool. Lettuce likes cool temperatures. So, the lettuce leaf type varieties, like individual leaf, those are really good for right now. Butter Crunch, Iceberg, any of those will work right now. Mm-hmm. You can definitely plant. I like oak leaf. I like Lolos. Those are my favorite. Oak leaf varieties and Lolo, L-O-L-L-O. If you see those labels, those are my favorite. Oak leaf is beautiful. It has like an oaky shaped leaf, and they're individual, large leaves, nice thick ribs, really juicy, come in different colors. Absolutely beautiful. Easy to grow, and you harvest from the outer leaves, and then when you do, these leaves are big, and you make a lot of salad, and you just always harvest from the outside leaves, and it keeps the plants contained. I plant my lettuces on an offset, stagger planting type of pattern in the greenhouse or anywhere, but I leave enough space for each head to grow to full size. So offset, but with enough space. Like I don't cram them because they need individual space. They need
space. Okay.
But then if you harvest from the outer leaves, it keeps them contained. It keeps them smaller, which allows them to maintain that distance. Otherwise, they will fill out. Eventually, they will go to seed. So lettuce does not it has a lifespan, and it will eventually produce a flower. So the more you harvest, you slow that down. Okay. And you can even cut whole heads. If you find you have too many, just cut a head. or twist it out of the ground. That's an easy way to keep all the roots still in the ground. I just like literally twist the whole head out, all the leaves stay in the soil, and you end up with a clean head. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
another thing you do. So if you have too many and you want to start using them, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and so at this time of year, like I said, any variety will work. Once it gets hot, lettuce, it needs a lot of water to stay crispy because its leaves they're full of water, and if they don't have water, they turn into dust.
Mm-hmm.
So the leaves that have more water in them are like a romaine type. And so in the summertime, you can grow a romaine type. There's lots of romaine types out there. They're hardier varieties, like little gem. There's romaine. And then there's like speckled varieties, but they're all like romaine types. And those ones will grow in the summertime, and ideally in a sheltered, shady spot. So if you don't want your lettuce to bolt, all lettuces will bolt in the heat of summer. If it's 30 degrees, they will bolt. So either grow them in a partial shade or under the shade of a taller plant. So if you've got bean plants, tomatoes, anything big leaves, squashes, you can tuck lettuces under there, and they will stay smaller and they will stay for longer. And also the shade of those plants will keep them cooler, keep the soil moist for longer. So I wouldn't put them in an open exposed area. And then August time, you can start planting all the other varieties again, because they will grow lovely in the fall, and they will not die until it's a hard frost. So they can take some freeze. So in my greenhouse, they're growing without protection. Some nights it goes down to -4, -5, absolutely fine, because they're acclimatized and they don't have any frost damage whatsoever. They're perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's how you do it.
Yeah. So could you even add them to your ornamental garden? Like, could they have them around your perennial, like lettuce around your perennials or around your shrubs?
Absolutely, because they're small when they start, and they're cute, and they're like bushy in shape, and you can get different colors. You can get my favorite variety, one of my favorite varieties, which is my home saved seed, is Merlot. And Merlot is the color of Merlot wine. So it's like nice burgundy-ish purple, big leaves, and they're really beautiful and pretty. Like they have a beautiful color. Then I have another one, which is Flashy Lightning Butter Oak. These are my two favorite, and I grow them all the time, and they're my own seeds. But that one is more speckled. So it's like green leaves with some pink and purple, and then purple speckles. And so that could really be paired nicely. Then there's other varieties like oaky leaves, oak-shaped leaves. I have varieties that are like chartreuse in the center with some pink on the exterior, really pretty. So you can pair that with other plants. You can put them in a flower container, kind of, stuck on the side is like your fill instead of, a flower type of, or ornamental. You can use that as a fill to fill a basket, and it can add lots of color. And I like to make them ornamental in the garden, because I grow many varieties, and because I do a staggered planting method, I like to alternate the colors as they plant. So it looks like a mosaic of color when I look at it. It's not just one color. It's like all different colors growing, which makes it interesting. So, and they have like more blanchy looking ones too. There's like very, very light green ones. Yeah. So you can have a lot of fun with lettuce.
Okay. Like you grow in raised beds. Can you grow them? Like, do you think you could be successful in pots or in the ground?
You could. Now if you have slugs, slugs will be, and snails and earwigs will be attracted to lettuce. Earwigs like to hide inside, and they like eat some of the ribs. So you have to watch out for that. And also, so once the earwigs come, I tend to have a lot of earwigs in my garden. So once the summer comes, I find they're full of earwigs, and it's kind of gross. But I cut the head or twist it out of the ground, then I dunk it into like a bucket of water, and then all the earwigs, and I kind of dunk it up and down, which it helps it to clean, and then all the earwigs fall out. But slugs and snails, so you want to keep the leaves clean. Don't let any dead plant material lay on the soil. So you remove all the outer leaves, and any damaged leaves or spent leaves, remove them, and that'll keep the plants upright, and also younger leaves, and making them less attractive to slugs and snails. It keeps them off the soil. They're not, on a very rainy summer, you're going to have them anyways, but one that's not, like, they're attracted to debris. So remove the debris, put down straw. I like to, to mulch with straw or with mulched leaves. And that helps to keep the soil clean, keeps the soil off of the plants, and kind of keeps the predators off them too.
Okay. That's
container. I just want to say, you want to keep it watered. So the lettuce needs a lot of water to grow. So water your containers every day or use drip line irrigation. And I would also suggest once you harvest the leaves to harvest them bring a big bowl to the garden or bucket or whatever that you're harvesting in, fill it with ice cold water, and as you harvest the leaves, drop them into that, because the heat of the day will make them wilt. So when you put them into the water, they reconstitute, they reabsorb that water, and it makes them crispy again. So definitely,
that's a great tip.
Yeah, so always harvest into a bucket or a big bowl of ice cold water and just submerge them. And even when you bring them indoors, before you store them, put them into ice cold water, let them soak for an hour, and then they will reabsorb and they become crispy again, and then spin them, dry them, store them in a container.
Yeah. Okay. Will they last in the fridge? Like, I was thinking you almost harvest and then put them on make a salad kind of thing.
Yeah, no, they will. If you do that treatment, the ice cold water treatment, and then you spin them, and then I like to, so they're in a bowl or in my sink, depending on how much I have, ice cold water, they're sitting there. And then I have my salad spinner. So a salad spinner is crucial. I recommend it. Then you take the leaves out, clean them, right? As you break them into the pieces that you want, put them into the salad spinner, fill that salad spinner with water. I usually do soaking in both. And then, I rinse it several times. Like I fill it with water, then take out the mesh basket with the lettuce in it. I look, is there any dirt? If there isn't, then it's ready for drain it. Then I spin it really well, and then it gets rid of most of the moisture, and then I store it in Ziploc bags. And the Ziploc bags can be washed and reused, which I do. And then when you put them in a Ziploc bag, don't push the air out. Like, make sure it's full of air. Zip the bag closed while it's full of air, and don't overstuff it, so that when you shake the bag, there's space, and they will last at least 7 days in the fridge.
You're kidding.
No. And the reason why at the grocery store, when you buy a box of lettuce and you bring it home, you open it, it's already spoiled. It's because there's no air in that box. That box is stuffed. All the leaves are sweating together. They have no air to breathe. There's no space. And so they're already moldy. If you happen to get a good box, take it out of that box, do the same treatment with ice cold water, soak it, salad spin it, and then take it out and put it into a Ziploc container. Or if you have I have a container, like a plastic storage container that I keep in the fridge, and it's special for greens. It has like a mesh base. Okay. That one's fine too. But again, I don't overstuff it. I leave air. But if it's a Ziploc bag, then I zip it with air inside. So you could shake it and store it like that. And you can mark the date on the bag if you need to, but then you can it'll last a week easily.
Wonderful.
Easily. Yeah.
Huh. And how does growing lettuce compare to spinach? Because I think in my mind, I put them both in a salad, but you were saying before the show they are different.
Yes. So spinach is a different family than lettuce, right? Spinach is related to, it's a Chenopodiaceae, so it's like a chard. It's the same family. And so it also has different growing conditions or growing requirements. It likes cold temperature. It will not grow in the summer. So if you try to plant it in the summer, before it even has a chance to grow, it already produce a flower. Like it is not interested in any heat whatsoever. So I would sow it now directly in the garden because it doesn't like heat. Like I'm trying to grow some under my grow light. It's taken 10 days for it to germinate, which is crazy. Finally, I'm seeing the second seedling appear, but doesn't like heat. So I just want to have seedlings to put out. If you have a cold greenhouse or cold space to start them in, you could start them in a seed tray. You can do 2 to 3 seedlings per cell, as opposed to lettuce, which is 1 per cell. With spinach, you can group them into little bunches. They will grow happily together, but they have a short lifespan. They need cold temperatures. So either sow directly or sow in a container, put outside, covered with a dome. That'll be fine. If you have a greenhouse, you can sow a tray, stick it in the greenhouse, which is probably what I should have done with mine instead of keeping it under my grow light in a dome. It doesn't like the heat. And then it'll grow, and it'll grow until it gets hot outside, and then it'll bolt. So again, remove the outer leaves just to keep the plant smaller and to produce young leaves all the time. You want to remove the older leaves from the outside. And then, it'll grow, but it will not grow in the summer. So don't count on it because it needs cold. But in August, second week of August, I would recommend sowing spinach directly in the garden. And that spinach will grow. It'll grow quickly because the temperature starts to change at that point. The nights are cooler. It loves cold, and you'll produce even better spinach in the fall. You don't remove it and don't even cover it. I mean, in this zone, I'm in zone 5B. Maybe if you're in zone 3, I wouldn't recommend this, but here in my zone 5B or 5A even, spinach will overwinter in the garden with no protection. So all that spinach that I was harvesting that I planted in August will still be there. It'll stay in place. It'll survive the winter. Even on a winter that we don't have snow, it survived. The outer leaves will get a bit damaged. That's okay. Remove them. And then in March, it starts to grow again from the center. And all those leaves will continue to grow. And you will have the most beautiful spinach until it gets hot. And then it will flower and produce seeds. So then you can harvest the seeds and then you can plant them again and again. But that's how I would keep spinach. I would start some now, but then be sure to start them again mid-August, directly in the garden. Just sow your rows. And don't even think about it, and it'll do its own thing. Just water it. Usually by then we have enough rains that I don't even bother watering it. It does its own thing, and it'll stay all winter without protection. It's hardier than kale in my garden and hardier than Swiss chard. So, like, kale will literally just melt away in a cold winter. Spinach stays in place.
Wow. How is it with competition? Like, could you also plant that in an ornamental garden around other things?
Yes, but it doesn't live into the summertime. So you can use that space now just to get a head start. Like if you don't have a garden, but you want to grow some spinach, you could. I mean, if you have rabbits though, they may eat it just like they may eat the lettuce. But if you can put a little something around it to keep the, rabbits away. But yeah, you can grow it in place now where, in a flower bed in a border. And then once it's done, you could use that space for your flowers. Yeah, but you can easily tuck them because they're not very big plants. And the only time they get large is when they go to seed. Like the plant is maybe a foot tall, and then it goes to seed, it gets taller.
Right.
But just in terms of the plant itself, maybe not even a foot maybe at most.
Okay. So for our listeners who may like to grow annuals, let's say, I mean, that's something you could have spinach, early spring, like late winter, early spring. And then when it goes dormant from the heat, that's when you plant your annuals.
We would anyways, because the spinach won't survive after the final frost date is passed. Spinach will bolt, and that's the perfect time to put in your annual flowers. So use that soil, and then in the end of summer when those annuals are done, take them out, put spinach seeds in the ground, let that soil remain growing spinach, and then again start the cycle again the next year. So it keeps that soil busy.
Yeah, for sure. And for someone who doesn't want to do a lot in a small space, that's a great thing to try. So, and it saves you some money at the grocery store. Potatoes, another, staple in everybody's grocery basket or grocery cart. But you were saying that it's much healthier to grow our own potatoes and easy.
Yes. So potatoes, when grown on your own, are, for me, in my experience, the healthiest because we don't use chemicals. As home gardeners, we don't need to use chemicals. You plant the potato, just an example, we plant the potato grows, you harvest the potato at the end of the season once the leaves turn brown and die back, you start harvesting, and you never use chemicals, you don't need to. When you buy store-bought potatoes, conventional farm-grown potatoes are sprayed at the end of the season so that the foliage dies. They're sprayed with a pesticide, and then tractors come and harvest. So the leaves have to be gone. They can't harvest up full plants, or people come and they harvest by hand, depending on the farm. And I live in an area where the potatoes are grown, so I get to see this firsthand. So, if you're growing it yourself, you don't need to spray the plants to kill the plants to harvest, because use your hands. We're not growing on a farm scale when we're growing in the home garden. So first of all, you've got that. Also, potatoes are really easy to grow. If you don't need to, if you buy organic potatoes too, organic potatoes are sold loose, or they're sold in clear plastic bags, and that's plastic, number one. But also, it's a clear plastic bag which exposes your potatoes to light, and the ones that just lay there in an open space and you help yourself to the number that you need, they're all sitting in the light. Potatoes cannot sit in light; they become toxic. They turn green. They're toxic. So I don't understand why that is the case. When you buy conventional potatoes, they're sold in a bag, a dark bag, which keeps them from turning green, unless they're flipped the other way and you can see the window. Whatever's covered doesn't turn green. So you're not winning whether you're buying non-organic or organic. It doesn't matter. So to grow them yourself is the easiest thing. Now, to grow your own potatoes, you should start with seed potato. Okay. And what is a seed potato?
Yes.
So a seed potato is not a potato from the grocery store. Although you could grow potatoes from the grocery store, you don't know if they've been sprayed, what they've been sprayed with. So you first of all, you don't want to grow a pesticide sprayed potato. They can also be sprayed to inhibit sprouting, which will keep their to keep them shelf stable for longer. So again, you don't need to do that. And also, when they're grown in soil that's not tested, they could have a blight. So if you're growing a seed potato, it's a potato that's specifically grown for seed. The seed is not a seed like from a seed packet. A seed potato is a potato. It's from the same exact potato that you would eat, except that one is tested and it's not. It's safe to plant. It doesn't have blight and other diseases. So when you're planting that in your soil, you're not adding diseases to your soil. You're growing a clean, tested product, right?
Okay.
And there's a lot
of worth doing. It's worth doing that.
100%. Now, if you grow your own potatoes and you want to save your own potatoes, your potatoes start growing, if they start sprouting in the spring anyways, you want to plant those again, you can. If your soil was disease-free, didn't have blight, you can plant those again, no problem. Even though I do grow my own and I grow about 5-6 bushels every year, I still buy seed potatoes and I order them from a great supplier. I highly recommend. Can I mention the name?
Sure, absolutely.
They're out of Alberta. It's Eagle Creek.
Eagle
Creek seed potatoes. I place an order and I recommend budding up with someone because the shipping is expensive. They travel by Canada Post. It's a heavy, heavy bag. So definitely recommend budding up with someone. I do every year with a girlfriend of mine. Every year we place our potato order. We do it in December or January. As soon as they come out, we're like, okay, what do we have? And we buy all kinds. And, you buy by the 4-pack, or you can buy by the kilo. And so we always try different ones. And all my potatoes come from them. I love them. They're great. And they're always clean and they're tested. And it's family owned. I love it. It's a great company from Canada. So that's what we do, even though I grow my own. So the seed potato, I know I'm not going to add disease or blight or other problems to my soil. And that's what I grow. So that's what you start with. Now, there's different ways. Some people say, cut your potato in half, or, you don't have to plant. One potato can become 2 plants if you want it. You can cut it in half. If you do, then you cut where the eyes are, make sure there's an eye on each one. An eye is, you'll see it as a little dimple. That will be a plant. A green stem will emerge from there. You can do that. You let them callus over about 24 hours. The part that you cut becomes dry and calloused over, and then you can plant and you have 2. The thing is, seed potatoes are not expensive. And when you cut a potato in half, you weaken that potato tuber. So I find that the potato plants are not as strong when you do that. Now, in the past, during wartime, during famines, when, product is scarce, I can understand doing that. But today, you don't need to do that. So I would say don't do that. Plant a potato, a whole potato if you want a stronger plant.
Whole seed potato.
Whole seed. Even if it's large, don't cut it. We don't need to worry about that. It's not expensive to buy a pack of 4 even, right? I'm not going to turn it into 8 or more because you can cut each one, make an eye. But you're going to have a weakened plant. It doesn't make as many potatoes. So always plant whole. Okay. Now, so you can plant a potato directly in the soil without pre-sprouting it, but I prefer to pre-sprout it. Called chitting.
Tell me about that. Pre-sprouting. Oh my gosh.
So, and not a sprout like, you open a potato bag and there's these long white shoots.
Like when I open my potato drawer and they've all gone to,
you're like, that? Not that. If you plant that will fall off as soon as you bury it. That is a weakened stem. You don't want those. Okay. What you're trying to grow is like a stocky green leafy stem that will emerge. So what I do is I grab an egg carton. I actually have a stack on the side. I keep all my egg cartons. And when I get my potatoes, and they're en route now, so I'm excited. I'm getting my potato order soon. I take all my potatoes and the eye side goes up and the tail goes down. So the tail looks like a little calloused over nub where it was once attached to the mother plant. So that's where the stem came from. Like, basically the tendril that was attached to the potato plant. And from there, the potato grew. So that side is a dry little, looks like an end of a stem, kind of dried off, like a bum. I call it the bum, the tail end, whatever. Yes. That goes down. Yeah. And then to sprout your potatoes. And the eye side, which is usually I try to make sure that they're at the top, I put that upwards. So in the egg carton, they sit perfectly. So each one just sits individually. And if the potatoes are too big or I don't have space, then I get a tray. Like a seed tray would work if they're small. You can just easily tuck them in. So I use like an old wooden box. an old cardboard box, what have you, and I just stack them all upright, and then they sit. And you put them in a light space, and they start to grow. They start to swell. Those little eyes become green, and then they grow a little green plant.
No soil. Like, are you putting soil?
No, they're just sprouting them, but they need light to sprout. If you put them in a dark cupboard, they're going to produce white, lanky stems. You don't want that. You want to have strong little green, short, little stubby type of plants. Like mini leaves, and they're green. Okay. That's healthy. And then when you plant that in the ground, they go in the ground the exact same way, because that's the top of the plant. That's where the plant will emerge from. So when you put them in the ground, you put them that way. Now, I'm a no-dig gardener, so I don't dig my soil. I don't make unnecessary holes. I only make a hole to plant each thing. So if I'm planting a potato, I use a dibber. So a dibber is basically, the one that I use is the handle of a fork. So long-handled fork, my fork fell off. Like the garden fork?
Okay.
So the fork fell off. I just have a handle. That's my dibber. I have it marked. I push that dibber all the way to the bottom of the bed, because I grow in raised beds. And then I pop my potato in. Like if the potato's bigger, then I just kind of wiggle it around.
Now, how deep are your raised beds?
They're 18 inches.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Some are a little bigger. Some are 2 feet. Okay. That's it. And I don't top up. So I dibble a hole. I pop the potato to the bottom of the hole with the bum side down or the tail side down, the eyes up. And also, if that potato grows any extra eyes, I don't need those eyes on the sides. I only want 2 or 3 eyes at the top. I don't need any others. So I remove any side eyes that appear. And I pop it to the bottom, and then I close the hole. And it's planted. And I don't do any trenching. I don't do anything. What I do is I top the bed with a very thick layer of straw. So once the potato grows, they will have all the protection they need from the extra straw, and they don't need to be hilled. You can't trench in a raised bed. You're going to destroy all your soil. You're going to ruin the soil structure and all the microbes. So I don't disturb it. I just I dibble a hole, to the width of the potato, and I drop the potato to the bottom. And that's it. Okay. The potato will grow from there. The potato grows up. And so as it grows up, the stem of that potato plant makes those tendrils, little mini stems where potatoes will form. And if it's a determinate variety, then it makes all the potatoes on one layer. And if it's indeterminate, it makes many layers of potatoes. Okay. So you can look that up before you plant to see. The one that is indeterminate will need a deeper space. The one that's determinate will not. It will just have potatoes on one level. So when I'm harvesting my potatoes, I'm not digging over my soil, try to find every loose potato. I pull the plant up, and they're all there. And then a few might fall off, so I just gently feel around in the soil without doing too much damage and pull them out. And that's it. I don't disturb it. Then I put the soil back. But I don't like to dig around and cause damage. And any potatoes that stay in the soil will grow new plants next year. Okay. They survive the winter.
Yeah, so if you missed one. So if you were to grow in a grow bag, let's say, instead, or in a big container, like sometimes I see those big garden, like the pots that the trees come in.
Yeah, those would be perfect. So if you're growing in the black pails that the trees come in are great because they've got drainage holes. I would put down a layer of potting mix. Okay, not seed starting mix, but potting mix. An organic one for sure. Don't use Miracle-Gro. You want to avoid like pesticide companies. Scott's and Miracle-Gro, I just don't want to use those. I don't recommend it. Yeah. They're not organic, right? So even if it's organic, there's still a pesticide manufacturer. So I just prefer not to use it.
I agree.
Yeah. So pick an organic brand. There's lots of great ones out there. Fafard also has a good brand. Yeah. I like Fafard. It's a good company. Anyway, so you do a thick layer, like I would say about 3-4 inches, maybe 3 inches, 3-inch layer of potting soil at the bottom of the container, and put down, it depends on the size of the container, but if it is 12 inches or no, 15 inches wide, the container, you could probably put 3 potatoes. I would put them on the kind of like a triangular type shape, 1, 2, 3, in the same format, like the bottom down, the eyes up. And then you have 2 options. You can fill the container to the top and leave it, just water it, and wait till the plant grows through it and it's fine, like you do in a raised bed. Or if you want to have a little fun and see what's going on, then you would cover those potatoes with another 3-4 inch layer of potting mix and wait, and the plants will start to grow, so you'll see the leaves emerging. Then keep filling in layers until you reach the top of that pot as those plants grow. Once you reach the top of that pot, you stop. There's no more left to fill, and the plant will grow. Once the potatoes form flowers, you'll see them. They are then producing tubers. That's your sign that they're doing something. You don't have to do anything with those flowers. If they produce what looks like mini green tomatoes, those are true potato seed. They're not edible. They're poisonous, so don't eat them. They're not real tomatoes. You can play with them. You can keep them, let them mature, get the seeds, try to, plant them and see if you can get true potatoes out of those. But you just remove them. Don't put the energy, don't let the plant take that energy. And that's it. And then just water them, make sure that those containers are watered so that they're moist, because potatoes are full of water. So they need water. To be, and it's different than in a raised bed, which can get rained on. And, typically, it's with the straw mulch on top, it stays fairly moist. A container dries every day. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you're watering it or putting a drip line to get water into it. So you don't have to think about it. You can also grow in a recycling bin if you wanted to. And the blue recycling bins have drainage holes at the bottom, so make sure that they do before you use them. Mm-hmm. I would put one potato in each corner, so you could put 4 and do the exact same thing until it grows to the top. When you're ready for harvest, so when are your potatoes ready for harvest? How do you know? First of all, there's different varieties. So if you're growing an early potato, you can harvest some early potatoes. Just the label will say, when you're buying your potatoes, will say late potato, mid-season, or early potato. Early potatoes means they are ready for harvest sooner. And so midsummer, you can reach in, pull out a few potatoes and have an early harvest and enjoy them immediately. They're delicious. Fresh picked potatoes are unlike anything. They're not cured. They're just so tender and incredible. The flavor is so worth it. And they're juicy. They have so much water in them. But later on, when potatoes are ready for harvest, you'll know because the plant starts to die back. So after they've flowered, the plant starts to turn yellow and brown and starts dying. And then what you do, if you're growing them in a garden, you pull up the plant, all the potatoes will be kind of there. If the soil is loose, right? If you have clay, then you have to chip away at it. But if it's loose soil, I recommend loose soil, loamy soil. Pull up the plant, get those potatoes, and then reach and grab a few more. If you're growing in a container, it's really fun, especially if you have kids. Take that container to a garden bed, like a flower bed, tip it in, dump the whole container, use that soil to be topped onto that garden bed, and the potatoes will just be sitting there, and you can just take the potatoes, remove them, and have your harvest. Now, you will grow less potatoes in a container than you will if you grow them in the ground. It just is that's just the way it is. Yeah. So if you want to have only containers, then just grow more containers of potatoes. Each potato container will maybe only harvest a bunch like this of potatoes. Maybe that's all you'll get. I don't know how many pounds that is. Maybe 5.
For our podcast listeners, Julia is doing a great job of visualizing things. So check us out on YouTube because we'll post this to YouTube as well.
Maybe you have a basketball size harvest. Maybe you can envision about the size of a basketball out of a container. But out of the garden bed, you get a lot more. So just start more containers so you have more potatoes. And you can set them on your driveway. No one's going to touch your potatoes. There are no pests. Sorry, there's no animal pests. No animal will eat those plants because they're poisonous. But you can get potato beetles. So they almost look like brownish orange slugs. They're nasty things. When they're babies, they start like that. They're really gross. So you want to make sure you pick those off and drop them in soapy water. They're really gross. I get to the point where I just pick them off by hand, but stay on top of them. They look under the leaves. They start off as little orange caviar balls almost on the underside, but then they grow fast, and then I just remove them, dump them in soapy water, and the actual the beetle, it's a beetle, and she's not a Japanese beetle, but she has a stripy brown hard shell, and she's a little bit pretty, but she's nasty. Nasty. They're easy to catch. They typically once you approach, they go and they fall down. So just catch her from underneath or look down. There she is.
And how about sun? So I'm assuming the potatoes need sun.
Full sun,
full sun. Okay, a tomato.
Full sun for sure. That's why I'm saying if all you have spaces on your driveway, just line up a bunch of buckets. You could do that, and it'll be really easy. Now, if you're growing a determinate variety, this is maybe next level potato growing, but You don't need to have a super deep container if you're growing a determinate variety, because you're only going to grow potatoes on one level. So if you're to make it deeper, it doesn't mean you're going to get more potatoes because they only grow on one level. But if you're growing an indeterminate variety, then a deeper container will allow you to grow more potatoes shielded from sun because they'll be under the soil level. So just before you decide on what size container to use, just check and see what variety you're growing and if it's determinate or indeterminate. And so some sources online don't explain determinate, indeterminate potatoes. They do it like a tomato, but it's not. It's not, that's not what it is. It's not how the leaves grow, it's how they grow under the soil. That determines whether they're indeterminate or determinate varieties.
Okay. Oh, wow. Well, these are great tips. And I think I want people to be successful. There's so many things we can talk about growing, right? And I know we've done a lot of shows about tomatoes and peppers and things like that. So I'm excited that we could talk about, 3 practical things that I think most people buy at the grocery store, and to know that they can actually successfully do it in their own yard. And you said you get enough potatoes that you have potatoes still, right? From last year.
I still have potatoes, and now they're in the season where they're starting to sprout. So I just rub those sprouts off because they're not, if you catch them young, then you don't have to just remove those little nubs that start forming and eat them. They're fine. And I still have them, and some varieties last longer than others. So I've got some varieties that are like a dark purple skin, almost black. Those are not sprouting as quickly as, let's say, Yukon Gold. So, the lighter skin ones tend to sprout a little sooner, but that's okay. I just rub them off. And the thing is, later on, I can dehydrate them. I can slice them and dehydrate them and dehydrate well. So if they start to if there's too much of that, then I may just process them and turn them into dry potatoes for later. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, that's
but
great.
The thing is, and lettuce, once you start growing your own lettuce, you won't want to buy it ever again. Like, I don't want to buy lettuce anymore. I don't like it. It doesn't taste good. It's really wilty and it's so compromised. It's like the oldest lettuce is, the lettuce they sell you is the one that I'd be taking off and composting. It's just so tired and lifeless compared to the one that's fresh, from your own garden. So
unfortunately, so once we start, we're not going to be able to go back then. Is that what you're saying?
No, but you can grow it. Like, always start seeds if you want to have continuous harvest. Start seed every 2-3 weeks because it'll take 3 weeks for it to be transplantable. But, just keep a cycle of it going. Remove the old plants, put in new ones, and just keep it going. And it likes cold weather, so you can grow it from technically April to November, and then you just have a break with no lettuce for a few months, unfortunately, but it doesn't store well. You can't freeze it. It doesn't, you can't keep it for long. So just keep growing fresh leaves and grow some indoors, under a grow light. I have a friend of mine who grows lettuce all winter long under her grow light, big, beautiful leaves. Just keep them, like I said, like one seedling per cell, and they will produce, and you can harvest under grow light all winter.
Julia spoke with Matt and I a couple of years ago about growing herbs. So I've got lots of great content, and you've got a lot of great content on your YouTube channel, Gardening Girl. People just Google that.
Yep, they can. Or juliadimakos.com/YouTube will get you to my channel as well. Excellent. And my website is juliadimakos.com. So if you want to check.
And you follow your Instagram too, because it's inspiring to see what you do and what you grow in your large garden. It's truly inspiring. So thank you for joining me again down the garden path, and it was great to have you here, and I know we'll do another show together soon. So thank you for joining me down the garden path, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.